In the world of ice and fire, House Targaryen stands out as one of the most important families within this universe. They conquered most of Westeros and established a dynasty that stood for nearly 300 years. But where did they come from? What made them leave their homeland? And how did they come to control massive fire-breathing lizards? To answer all these questions, we must look back thousands of years before the main books. Across the seas to Westeros' neighbor continent of Essos, where a civilization arose from humbling beginnings to become a mighty empire that brought the whole world to heel. This is the history of the Valyrian freehold. When the world was still young, Essos became the birthplace of many civilizations. Some were rooted in fantasy and legend, such as Qarth and the great empire of the dawn of Yi. But the first true nation of man originated in the slaver city of Old Geese. It was founded by a mighty slave lord known as Grazdan the Great, who raised mighty pyramids and temples through slave labor. He also established the fearsome Lockstep Legion, the first disciplined army. Armed with 3 spears and tall shields, these freedmen warriors became an unbeatable force that quickly colonized Geese's surrounding areas. Some say this took place during the long night of Westeros, where the others of the icy north descended upon the kingdoms of man, determined to extinguish all light and warmth. Grazdan thus became the father of the Ghiscari Empire, a nation that thrived off slavery. For centuries thereafter, the sons of Ghiscari nobility were given his name in honor of their great founder. For centuries, the Empire of the Golden Harpy expanded their rule north, erecting the slaver cities of Astapor, Yunkai, and Meereen, as well as venturing south to Sothorios and the Basilisk Isles. They even managed to reach the Summer Isles, though they fled in terror at the sight of its dark-skinned inhabitants, mistakenly believing them to be demons. When they subdued the region known now as Slaver's Bay, they sought further conquest to their neighbors, bringing them into conflict with other nations, like the Tall Men of Sarnor. But their greatest rival came across the Gulf of Grief, to the lands of the Long Summer. This peninsula was protected by a ring of volcanic mountains known as the 14 Flames, and was the homeland of the Valyrians, a race of man unlike any other. They are best known for their silver gold hair, purple shaded eyes, and their unnatural beauty. They began their lives as a commune of shepherds, living their lives in simplicity, until they came across the most powerful creatures on Earth, dragons. How they made such a discovery is shrouded in mystery. The Valyrians themselves claim that they were the children of the 14 Flames, while Asshai histories claim that a mysterious people from the Shadowlands brought these creatures to Valyria, and taught these simple shepherds how to control these mighty beasts. The darkest tale is that the blood mages of Valyria experimented with deadly wyverns from Sothorios to create dragons. Whatever their origins might have been, the Valyrians tamed and mastered these draconic creatures and made them the most powerful weapons of all time. Through sorcery and dragonflame, the Valyrians expanded their influence across the peninsula, establishing a great city within the shadows of the 14 Flames, the city of Valyria. Here, magic prospered. Topless towers reached as high into the heavens as the dragons do, and imposing sphinxes glared down upon all inhabitants with their granite eyes. Soon enough, this city became the capital of a great empire that would dominate the lands of the Long Summer. But this empire was ruled by neither crowns nor thrones, but instead governed as a freehold, where all land-owned citizens had a voice in the governance of the freehold. From time to time, Archons were chosen by the freeholders to provide leadership in times of crises, but this was only for a limited time. Yet in reality, the true power behind the freehold resided in the Dragon Lords, the highest of their nobility. These 40 families controlled hundreds of dragons and would use these beasts to vie for both power and glory. Soon enough, the freehold came into conflict with the Empire of Geese for dominance. 5 times did the Ghiscari send their lockstep legions to attack Valyria, and 5 times they were reduced to ash and bone, for the freehold had dragons, and the Empire had none. In the second and third wars, the Kingdom of Sarnor would aid the freehold against their ancient enemies, but in the fourth, rival Sarnori kings fought on both sides of the conflict. It was during these wars that the Valyrians captured all the ghiscari holdouts on Sothorios and the Basilisk Isles. By the fifth and final war, the Dragon Lords had suffered enough from their belligerent neighbor, and so they took their dragons to Old Geese and razed it to the ground, sowing the earth with salt so nothing would rise. The massive pyramids, temples, and homes that Grazdan the Great had raised in ancient days were toppled and burnt to ash. By that time, the Valyrians had come to adopt the doctrine of slavery from their enemies, and those who survived the firestorms were enslaved by their conquerors. In time, they also forgot the tongue that Grazdan spoke, instead adopting the High Valyrian of their new overlords. From the ashes of the Ghiscari Empire, only Astapor, Yunkai, and Marine remained, and only as vassals to the Dragon Lords. The time of the Golden Harpy had passed, and the Age of Dragons began.